Well, did the...
Hang on, we got to make sure that we establish our order here.
Okay.
Are you guys all are you gonna defer to Greg? Is that kind of what we're doing? Because I mean, this is like grabbing your seat in the staff room on the first day. All right, Greg. Looks like nobody's gonna intervene. So.
Well, did the weather and the delay change anything about how?
You know, I mean, it kind of was a little bit disjointed, obviously. But you know, as I told the kids when we came in the first time, it's like, you know, hey, we're gonna play in Lubbock, Texas at 3 p.m. Central Time. And there's a very good chance that there could be a thunderstorm and lightning storms. I've been a part of some really weird delays. I've been a part of like hour and a half rain delays. We kind of talked about what you do. You know, you're going to be in there for a minimum of a half an hour when something like that happens. And so, you know, oftentimes the first thing you do is take your pads off, you get your body core temperature down, you get some liquid in, some fluids in you, get a little snack. Sometimes if it's longer, you take a shower. You just kind of reset. So, you know, we kind of talked about what would happen if that did occur. And so it was an opportunity to maybe practice that if it does happen to us during the course of the season. That's where you got to look at it. It's an opportunity to learn and grow.
At the beginning when you guys came back in, what was out? What was behind all that?
Well, the locker room has to be to a certain standard. And if it's not, then we got to make sure it is to a certain standard. So we had some good and some bad there. So we had a young man that decided to not learn to run on the field, on the practice, and Bryce Sturck sent him back. And so we had some self-correction there, and but then I had to remind him, hey, really good job there, but you know the locker room wasn't to our standard, and so we went and corrected that. And I doubt we'll have to do it again. So you know, it's easier to let up than it is to catch up.
Did you like the overall tempo of today?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think the kids were excited to be out there. I know, you know, it's funny because the older you get, you know, I mean, like I told them, I didn't have any problem sleeping last night. I've been doing this a long time. But then when you walk out and the kids' energy's there, music's playing, the field's set up, it's like, okay, yeah, you know, the hair on the back of your neck starts to stand up. So I think our guys were really excited to be out there. Certainly the execution was not as crisp as you'd liked it to be, but the effort and the intensity were there, and I think a lot of really positive things to build on.
How would you evaluate the progress maybe over the summer? You know, maybe some of those play run practices.
I just think our guys look really good. That's probably my takeaway is, you know, when you get up next to them and you see their bodies, and you know, and there's guys that maybe don't stand out as much, but a guy like Shane Perry, I look at that kid and I'm like, boy, he looks really good, and he's running really well. I think Logan Jones is probably in as good a shape as he's ever been in since he's been here. He's running really well. You know, he's put together really well right now. Some of our big guys have gotten bigger. Our fast guys have gotten faster. That's the purpose of the summer. And you know, I think they've had some really good exchanges in the PRPs from what I've heard anecdotally, and so, you know, I think we had some of that today. One of the things that I was really pleased with today, I kind of challenged Lance McCutcheon at the end of the spring, and so, you know, and I kind of told him, I said, hey, you're a big receiver that doesn't play big. You know, you've got to go up and be aggressive and play with strong hands and win those 50-50 balls, and he did that multiple times today, and I thought that was a really good first step for him in fall camp.
A lot of guys, especially defensively, that seemed like they played their way up to that first team, and they were playing with the ones today. How much carryover is there from the spring?
Yeah, well, kind of a disjointed is a good word for our spring ball, too. We kind of have a seating chart right now, not really a depth chart, especially probably in the front seven. We have so much depth and a lot of kind of, you know, the guys that are very, very close to one another in terms of their skill and ability level right now at linebacker, and so you're going to see a lot of guys kind of rolling with the ones. And so I think that'll be an interesting position to watch. Tight end's a similar position as well, with losing 3 seniors there. And then D-line, we do have a lot of depth, and so there's the ability for us, if the kid's really playing well, you know, we can bump him up for a day or two because we know we're going to have to play that guy in the game anyway. And so I think that's a real positive thing for us. This is the first time we've really had 104 healthy bodies to put out there. You know, we didn't start with anybody on the bike today. I walked by the bikes and they were empty, and I was like that's a first, you know. So really excited about as healthy as we are, and obviously we know that's not going to stay that way. So we've got to continue to get these young guys going. That's why we're doing the 2-spot stuff on 2 fields. It's not always going to look pretty, but those guys will get better and better, and we're going to need them as the season goes on.
What are your thoughts on quarterback competition, and what are you hoping to get from those guys in the next few days?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a very interesting deal. In a perfect world, I'd like to make a decision on the starter after the first scrimmage. I want to tighten up the timeline. But, you know, hey, the competition will play itself out, and we'll evaluate that as a staff, and I think it'll come together the way it's supposed to. I think both of them had good moments today. Both of them, you know, had some things they probably want to have back, but that's first day of fall camp.
Talking about Tucker Robick, you know, do you sense some more confidence from him maybe compared to this time last year?
Well, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think he, you know, coming into that competition, I mean, we'd already made the decision that we were going to put Troy there. And so, you know, I mean, I think he's a pretty smart kid. He probably realized that I was going to force the issue with that regardless of what happened. And he didn't play with a lot of confidence early in fall camp last year. He really came on towards the end, and as I told him, I said, if you'd have played that way, you know, over a 3.5-week period, you might have been the guy, but he really didn't. And so I think he's in a different place mentally and has more confidence, as you said.
And what does Casey have to do to maybe be in that in competition.
Yeah, I think I've said this a number of times. Is really, it's not about completion percentage. You got to make decisions. The guy can't be out there throwing interceptions, but it's that guy that when I just have that feeling that that's the guy that walks in the huddle and the guys believe that they're going to be able to lead the team, and that's probably the most important part of my evaluation.
What have you learned from previous quarterback competitions, that you're keep in mind this time?
Yeah, I just think that you've got to be honest and upfront. I mean, I think there's so many times where there's a lot of level, there's a lot of ways that you can kind of define what's important, and that's why I take the statistics out of it. Because if you base it purely on statistics, then you're missing a lot of the essence of the quarterback position, the leadership, the decision making. And so that's probably the thing that I've taken away from observing a number of quarterback competitions is you don't want to say, hey, whoever has the highest completion percentage or throws for the most yards or whatever at fall camp, because that still might not be the individual that is really the one the team believes in. And so I think that's what we're going to kind of stick to is, ultimately production is going to matter, but certainly that one that displays the ability to make good decisions in a consistent way and has the confidence of his teammates.
Coach, can you elaborate just on Troy Anderson, kind of come around full circle now in that linebacker position this year, and just the athleticism that he's shown over the course of the last 2 years?
Yeah, he's a very unique young man, and I think he was the most excited guy out there today. I mean, I really do. I mean, it's kind of funny because he's kind of a reserved kid, and he's jumping around, hooting and hollering, and it was like Christmas for him. And so, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, just a very unique young man, and his athleticism is. I think I've said this a number of times. I think he's on par with some of the best all-around football players I've had the opportunity to coach, and that's some good guys. That's guys like Shaq Thompson that won the Ronnie Lotto Award and was a first-round draft pick. Dante Fowler Jr. that could play just about anywhere on the field. Doug Martin, who's another first-round draft pick that played at times both offense and defense at Boise State, and so he's that type of an athlete, and that's very unique.
Is there any
follow-up question?
Is there any hesitation to maybe starting to play a different position? I mean, quarterback to linebacker is, obviously he started as a linebacker, so I wouldn't sense that there would be too much differentiation, but is there any hesitation so far seen?
Yeah, not really. I think he's, again, in a different way. I think the thing that makes Troy so special is not just his physical gifts, but as I've said a number of times, his ability to kind of compartmentalize the information. He's so intelligent, and he really doesn't have a difficult time processing information. He's kind of a one-rep guy, which is really, really unique.
Coach, I know it's the first day, but was there any players or player groups that kind of got out and surprised you in a good way today?
Yeah, I think I mentioned Lance McCutcheon already as a guy that I thought had a really good first day, and really I was pleased to see him kind of work on the things that we had discussed as he was coming out of spring, and so he's one guy that stood out to me today. Jason Skrimpos kind of did some things that has a little more twitch than you might think for a big guy, and so I was pleased with him. I really haven't had a chance to see him for a few years, and so that was a pleasant surprise for us. Obviously, we haven't put the pads on, so we'll see when we start playing football for real. I mentioned Shane Perry as a guy that I think is kind of has changed his body and done a nice job at developing in the off season, and Logan. I think those are some of those running backs, and those are the guys usually when you're in a helmets only practice. The guys that are going to stand out for the most part are going to be the skill players because those are the ones that are doing the most work together.
Speaking of Washington guys, Andre Williams, what do you like about him in the box spot?
Super smart, very athletic, and runs better than you think. Those three qualities. And he's a guy that's committed to being great at something. He's a very hard worker, spends a lot of extra time perfecting his pass rush skills and things of that nature.
What gives you the confidence to play him there and then move Bryce to the other side?
I think it's just getting our best 11 on the field. I think that's really the motivation. Boys are a little restless, I think. So, when you look at it and you go, okay, I think this guy's one of our best 11 on defense. Well, does that mean we set Bryce? No, that means we find a place for Bryce to play because he's also one of our best 11.
Those Washington guys, we talk about Bryce Grant, Andre Williams, and Skrimpos. Is it an easier transition for guys coming from specifically Washington since they're familiar with sort of a similar style?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why they gravitate here is because we run a similar scheme. There's a lot of similarities in our culture, and there's familiarity on our staff. Jonathan Amosa played there. Kane coached there. I coached there. Hayden Shoup played there. So there's a lot of guys that there's a comfort level when they get here. We'd like to keep that pipeline rolling as long as we can.
Talk about the running backs earlier. No matter who the quarterback is, you really expect to stray too much far from that DNA that you always talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we've been saying this for a number of years, is that we've got to be more diversified on offense, and we've got to be able to take advantage of teams that are going to pack the box and play post safety defense. And I feel like we've got guys that can win those one-on-ones too. I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like, as good a player as Herbie was and Kevin early in his career, we just didn't have a guy that could win a one-on-one in terms of the vertical speed part of it. I think Kevin is, really developed as an athlete and has better speed than he had when he was certainly a freshman. Travis Johnson, I think, is one of the better athletes in the league, and I think he's got elite speed. And I think that gives us an opportunity to create some of those one-on-ones. And certainly the decision to move forward with maybe a more pro-style quarterback at this point is kind of a nod to the fact that we know we need to be more diversified on offense.
Is there a thought of moving Johnson back to that QB spot, or you just want to keep him out?
I think you'll see guys like Travis, Troy, Willie Patterson, who was we recruited 1 million high school quarterbacks here. So I think I joked with the tight end Charlie from Portland State. He was like, we were having dinner together, and he's like, "Hey man, I got to get out there and get some quarterback." And I was, "Hey, we played everybody." So and so I think Mondre, that he was a pretty prolific high school quarterback, and so we're doing our punt stuff today. And I was working with our personal protectors. Every single one of our personal protectors was a high school quarterback, and some of them, including Troy, had played quarterback for us here. So I'm like, might be some options there, and so that's a good thing for us. And so I think those guys are oftentimes the best player on the field in a high school setting. They're usually some of the better leaders, and they're usually some of the better, the most intelligent guys too. And so you'll see a variety of guys there, including Travis.
How do you suspect that Troy's reps might shake out as time goes on between offense?
Yeah, I think that's going to be something that we've talked about, and that's going to have to be something that we balance. And it's not just Troy. I think we've got a couple of guys that we're going to experiment with 2 ways. And so when we do our play-it days, so anytime we're on the grass, that's kind of what we call a fundamental day, where we're doing some team stuff, but the emphasis is mostly special teams, unit work, individual. And then we go to the stadium, we have what we call play-it days, where really we're playing 11 on 11, even though we're not tackling all the time and that kind of stuff. And on those play-it days, we'll have days where we have an offensive emphasis and days where we have a defensive emphasis. So let's say it's a third down day, but it's an offensive emphasis. Well, if there's scheme that involves Troy on offense, his primary spot would be offense that day.
Going into this program, whether they're transfers or freshmen, what does it take for a guy like that to make an impression these next several weeks in Portland?
Yeah, I think, as I tell all those guys, keep your eyes open, your pads down, and your mouth shut. You earn trust by what you do, not what you say. And the guys that work hard and produce consistently will rise to the top. Guys like Isaiah Fonse last year, Kevin Cassis a few years ago. We can kind of go down the list of the guys that have been that person, and that's the advice I give those guys.
You mentioned the inside linebackers. With the return of Josh Hill, Chad Cano, but then also you have other guys that played, like Callahan O'Reilly, Michael Java. What do you think of just the inside linebackers?
I think it's going to be a heck of a battle.
Yeah.
I really do.
How many guys do you think you can play? How many guys are in that competition? 6? 7?
Well, you look at it. If you just talk about Mike and Will, we're 4 deep in veteran guys.
Right,
before you get to the freshmen.
Right.
And so, and I think that those guys are, that's a group that, it's a high impact position, and those guys are usually your most valuable guys on special teams. So I could see us traveling a lot of those guys. I think the battle is going to be really good. I saw things today, and again, we're not in pads, so it's hard to say, but Chad is a different guy. He's 230 pounds now. He's not 205 like he was a couple years ago. Josh, is just so awesome to have him out there for him and for us, because he's now it's not a good thing to go through. And he's in a much better place, and I'm so happy for him that he gets an opportunity to finish this thing out. We just got to keep our fingers crossed and be smart with him. We're not going to have a lot of contact with him, but the presence that he has in that linebacker room was something that we sorely missed last year.
You can equate that maybe to what Grant Collins faced last year, right?
Definitely. Very similar type of deal. Multiple injuries, multiple surgeries, and I think, and I'll say it again. Josh might prove me wrong, but I haven't seen a tougher kid than Grant Collins yet. Right. So I take him back. I just don't know if he's got any shoulders left. So.
Anything else?
Same helmets only tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, the helmets only. We'll move it up so we can avoid the weather, so to speak, and we'll try to get what we can in the afternoon. That's going to be the frustrating part. It's just kind of been. I don't know that we're going to get any better. I think it's just every day about 3 o'clock we start rolling through with these things. It's like clockwork, and so we just kind of got to do what we got to do. And their feet will burn up in warm-ups down there in Lubbock, and we're just live with it. So bring an extra set of cleats.
Right.
So
Thanks, Coach.
you bet. Thank you.